Hey guys, my name's Star. Welcome back to my channel. Today I want to talk about the things I do wrong as a reader. One of them being I start series. I start a lot of series and then I don't finish them. Ever. I have a never-ending list of series that I'm 1 book in, 2 books in, halfway through, just a book from finishing, and then I just never ever pick it up again, and it's years later and I don't understand what happened. So my thought process when I choose to read a book that I know is either in a series that's going to be written or that is done being written is kind of haywired. I will look at a book, and if it just came out and I know it's going to be a series, I'll think to myself, hey, I can read this. And then when the next book comes out, I'll read that, and I'll just, I'll always be able to read it when it comes out. I'll never be behind. It's not this never-ending catch-up thing. And then I never do it. The next book will come out and I'll be in the middle of something else and I just won't pick it up. Or I'll be in the mood for a contemporary and that happened to have been a fantasy or something like that. And then I end up being like 3 books behind and I never catch up, and then I never decide to pick up the book again, and that's just the way that goes. Or it'll be the complete opposite. The entire series will have been released, and in my head I'm like, I can now marathon this. I'll pick up the first book and I will read straight through and it's fantastic. That does not typically always happen. I'll read the first book and then I'll read the second book, and then I won't want to read it anymore because all I've done is read this, and now I want to pick up something else because this is just no good. And does that happen to anybody else? Or am I just insane? So sometimes this bothers me and sometimes it doesn't. I want to talk about the times it bothers me, because there's a lot of series out there that I haven't finished, but these are the ones that are like painful to my soul, because I thoroughly enjoyed what I've read so far, and there is no reason on this planet why I shouldn't pick up the next book and, read this series. But for whatever reason, I haven't. So I guess we'll just get started with this list of how much of a horrible person I am. The first book I want to talk about is a contemporary, and it's actually the only contemporary in this list or stack of books that I have. That's going to be the Crazy Rich Asian series by Kevin Kwan. I have read Crazy Rich Asians. I've read China Rich Problems. Is that right? That is not right. China Rich Girlfriend. That's what it is. So I've read Crazy Rich Asians and China Rich Girlfriend. And the last one is Rich People Problems, I believe is what it is. Rich People Problems. And I haven't read that yet. So I'm just missing one book. And I love these. They're good. I enjoy them. They're a solid, funny contemporary romance deal, and it's fun for me. I fly through books like this. Like I read this in one sitting. I read this in one sitting and it was fantastic. And I read the second one in one sitting. And it's still summer. It's a good time for me to pick up a contemporary, so I should probably read that. The problem is that I'm a mood reader, and I'm in the mood for really gory fantasy. So, maybe. But I want to get to it. I want to read it. I'm sad that I haven't finished this series. It's a really easy read. It's so easy to get through, and I just haven't gotten to it, and that's disappointing to me. Nobody else cares that I haven't gotten to it, but I care. I want to read it. I've heard it's just as good as the other 2, and this was great for me. This was a good time, so I want to continue to have a good time, and I want to read it, and hopefully I can get to it soon. I guess I should tell you what the book is about, because that would be, the decent thing to do. So it follows a girl. I think her name is Rachel. It's been a minute since I've read it. Yeah. It follows a girl named Rachel, and she has a boyfriend. His name's Nick, and he takes her home with him to Singapore to meet his family because he's proposing to her. He has proposed to her. Along those lines is where we're at. And it turns out that his family is uber rich, like drop your jaw rich. And she had no idea. She was unaware because he's a professor where they're both professors in a university, and she's not by any means of wealthy at all. She's not wealthy by any means, and she didn't think he was either, and he never told her, so he takes her to Singapore for a friend's wedding. That's what it is. They're going to Singapore for a friend's wedding. Oh no, because now I feel like I'm confusing the movie and the book. I have a problem now. Hold on. Yeah, see, I confused the movie and the book just then. That's incorrect. In the book, he just wants her to go to Singapore with him. So she goes. She agrees to spend the summer with him. And his family doesn't think that she's good enough for him, and shenanigans ensue. It was funny. It was a good time. I enjoyed it. And I liked the second one just as much, that I can't tell you about, because then there's spoilers for the first one. And I don't like spoilers. I don't want you guys to have to do spoilers, so I'm not going to tell you. But I can tell you I read the first two and I need to read the third one. The next book I want to talk about, or series, I'm going to say book a lot, and it's actually a series, is going to be it's the Nevermore series, I think. It's Nevermore, The Trials of Morgan Crow, but I believe it's called the Nevermore series by Jessica Townsend. This is a great middle grade series. It follows a girl named Morgan Crow, who is the unluckiest girl in her town. She was born on a really unlucky day, and she's cursed, and she gets blamed for everything bad that happens. And then someone shows up who whisks her away to a place called Nevermore, where she has to do this competition. So it's this fun middle grade, fantastical world with magic, and there's competitions. Who doesn't love a good competition? Like 4 dangerous challenges. It's a good time. I loved this. This was fun. It was a well-written, fun middle grade book. And I really want to read the rest of it. I think there's four books out right now, and there may be more. I'm not sure, but I know right now that there's 4 books out. And I would like to read the books. I want to read them. I want to enjoy more middle grade magical wonderfulness. I don't remember the last time I picked up a middle grade book. I think it was Nevermore when it originally came out. I read that. So I'd like to read more middle grade. Middle grade's a good time. The next series I want to talk about is actually a reread for me. It's Lord of the Rings. Everybody loves Lord of the Rings. I try to reread Lord of the Rings every couple of years. I watch the movies at least once a year, or I try anyway. There are some of my favorite movies, and there are also some of my favorite books. I'm gonna say, so Lord of the Rings was the first like adult high fantasy books I've ever read. And the first time I read them, it was actually really hard for me to get into. It started really slow. There was this huge epic travel, and I don't even think I finished it. The Fellowship of the Rings, I don't think I finished it the first time I read it. Then as I got older, I tried again, and I was able to get through all of them, and I loved it, and I've done a reread every couple of years after that. But I've never actually listened to the audiobooks. So I'm doing that now. I just finished The Fellowship of the Rings earlier this month, and I read that, or I listened to that in audiobook format, and I got that from my local library through Libby. So I'm gonna do the same thing with the other 2. I want to finish the reread. I don't think I've ever read all 3 of them consecutively, like back to back. I've never marathoned them. So I would like to do that this time. I don't want to have, I guess it wouldn't be a marathon because I'm not going to consistently just only listen to that. But I would like to read them really close together. And I've never done that. So I'm going to do the 2 Towers soon. Like in the next couple days, I'll start that and go from there. But I would really like to finish that reread this year. Yeah, Lord of the Rings, that's my next one. I hate that it takes me so long to get through a reread for those. It usually takes me a whole year. Like I'll read the first one at the beginning of the year, then somewhere towards the middle, I'll read the second one. I want to do that. I purposely waited until now to start them so that I could force myself to read them closer together. And I guess for those of you who don't know what Lord of the Rings are, well, what world are you living in? What rock have you been living under that you don't know what Lord of the Rings are? You know? I mean, if you want me to tell you, I will, but I shouldn't have to. Do you not know what Lord of the Rings is? Please tell me you know what Lord of the Rings is. Oh boy. I'm gonna fall into a downward spiral and where I go lecturing people about Lord of the Rings. So we're gonna move on to the Broken Earth series trilogy. The 5th season by N.K. Jemisin. I guess it is a trilogy. It's a trilogy. There's 2 other books. I have read this one. I've only read the first one. I really, really loved it. It's really great. It's also one of the first non-Lord of the Rings high fantasy books that I read. I am new-ish to high fantasy. I've done some Brandon Sanderson, I've done some Robin Hobb, but I'm still new. Like I'm still trying. I'm very much a YA reader, and I'm branching out. And this was one of the books that I picked up to start branching out, and I'd like to finish the series. It's really good. I loved this book. It took me a little bit longer to read than I typically take to read a book, but that's okay. It's not everybody reads at the same speed, and I'm a slower reader, and I'm okay with that. I would love to finish this sooner rather than later, though. It's a really captivating world. I love the characters. I connected to them. I really liked the whole end of the world trope. It's my thing. The apocalypse is totally my thing. I'm really into it. And I'd like to continue with the Broken Earth series. I would like to finish it nonetheless. There's 2 more books out, I believe. No, I don't believe. I know, because it's a trilogy. There's 2 more books that I want to read. I don't like to do epic fantasies like this in audiobook, with the exception of Lord of the Rings, because I've read that before. But for the first time, it's hard for me to follow along with an epic fantasy or a high fantasy novel, or any adult fantasy novel for that matter. It's really hard for me to follow along in audiobook. I have to physically read it, or I'm going to miss things and I'm not going to understand certain things. So I would like to physically read these. I don't have the other 2. I need to get them, and I will do that. I'll probably go to my local thrift used bookstore and see if I can find them that way, and read them. But I'd like to do that before the end of this year. All of these I want to get to before the end of the year. So there's no reason why I shouldn't, with the exception of the next one that I'm going to talk about. There's no reason why I can't get to most of these before the end of the year and complete the series. And the reason I say except for the next one that I'm going to talk about is because the next one that I'm going to talk about is the Stormlight Archive series by Brandon Sanderson. And all of the books are chunky. They're all real chunky. These are real chunky books. I've read The Way of the Kings, and I love this book. I read it last year, and I adored this. This was a wonderful world with traveling and killing and assassins and magical swords. It's cool. It's just a straight up cool world, and I want more. I want so much more. There is 3 or 4 more books in addition to this one out, and I believe it's going to be an 11-book series. So if I don't catch up now, I'm going to be real behind, and then I'm never going to want to read it. I'm getting ready to start the Wheel of Time series, and that's commitment. That's a commitment. And I don't need to make another commitment like that. So I need to catch up so I don't have to consistently make that commitment over and over and over again. But I really like Brandon Sanderson's writing. I read the 6 books in the Mistborn series not too long ago, and that was fun. It was a fun ride. I really like his writing. It's very approachable writing for someone who is just learning the fantastical elements of the high fantasy world. I've read a few now, so I feel more comfortable delving into his higher, more epic adventures, and that's what the Stormlight Archives was. It's just this huge epic thing, and I really liked it. It took me quite a while to read it. It was a long sit for me, but at the end it was a 5 out of 5 stars, and there's no reason that I shouldn't continue to read them. They just take up so much time, and they're really large books, which can be intimidating for people. I'm one of the people that they're intimidating for, but we'll get to it. I will try. I promise. The next book that I want to talk about, or series, I'm going to keep saying book and it's going to be a problem. The next series that I want to talk about is the Arc of a Scythe series, I think is what it's called. I think it's called the Arc of a Scythe series by Neil Shusterman. I've read the first one. I read Scythe. I haven't read Thunderhead or The Toll yet, and I have a very specific reason for that. The romance turned me off. I like to read a fantasy book. I like romance. I like all the things. I am not picky that way. But when a romance comes out of nowhere for me, it bugs me to no end. I really liked Scythe. I was going to say Arc of a Scythe, but that's not true because I haven't read the whole series. But I liked Scythe. I thought the concept was killer awesome. I thought the characters were super cool. I really liked the mentor, and I liked the 2 kids. Like, I enjoyed reading that. And the world is incredible. A world where there's no disease and there's no death, and there are just the reapers, the scythes that go in, and they will, they randomly kill people so that the world's not overpopulated. It's a dystopian and it's awesome. But man, that romance got me. The romance, it got me, and not in a good way. And that made it hard for me I put it down and I didn't want to pick it back up. But I feel like I gave it a hard, I don't think I gave it a fair shot. I think I got so put off by the romance that I didn't give the rest of it a fair shot, it's not cool, because the rest of the book was really good. I like the writing. I like Neil Shusterman's writing. I really liked the story. I liked the concept. I liked the world. The political system that's going on. Like, I enjoyed it, and I should pick it back up. I want to pick it back up because I think that I'm going to enjoy. I even think I'm going to end up liking the romance. I think it'll grow on me. I'm just not a huge insta-love type of girl, and that's what it felt like to me. It's not what I wanted out of that book, but I loved everything else so much that it would be wrong of me to not give the other books in the series a fair shot. So I want to read them. I want to get to them. I want to read them. The very last book that I'm going to talk about is a YA fantasy. I guess I would consider it a fantasy. It's like a fantasy-ish. Maybe it's historical fantasy. It's The Diviners by Libba Bray. So I've read The Diviners and Lair of Dreams. I haven't picked up Before the Devil Breaks You or King of Crows, I think is what the 4th one is called. It's a quartet, and it's done. It's been completed. It's out. I'm a big chicken. I'm chicken shit. I get scared of a lot of stuff. And these are a little scary. I'm gonna take that back. They're not scary for normal people. If you can sit through a horror movie, this isn't scary for you. For me, on the other hand, it's pretty scary. I read The Diviners fine. I wasn't scared of The Diviners, but when I got into Lair of Dreams, it started to freak me out. And I ended up having, I couldn't read it at night before, but I had to read it during the day because I'm a scaredy cat. I'm very, very easily frightened. And I think that's what put me off, is that I was so scared of it. But I love these characters. Like, I am invested in these people. Evie is my girl. She's my girl. And I gotta know what happens. I have to figure out what happens to my girl. So I need to continue to read. And I need to pick these up. I do. I need to read the series. I need to finish it. I have them. I have the quartet, so there's no reason for me not to read it, other than that I'm a scaredy cat. But I'm gonna overcome my fears, and I'm gonna read them. I am. So those are some of the major books. I want to say, not books, I keep saying book series. Those are some of the major series I want to get to before the end of the year. I at least want to read, for the ones that I have multiple books to get through. Yeah, no, that's right, multiple books to get through. I would at least like to read the next one in the series for those, and then I have zero excuse for this. There's one book left, and it's a fun, easy read. I really need to read that. Like, that needs to be in there quickly. I just haven't done it yet because I need help. But I want to try. I would like to. Now, this is not to say that I have read all of the books. It's not. It's not to say that every other series I've started, I've finished. These are just the ones that hurt me the most. Like, these are the ones that bug me the most. They bother me. I can name 1,000,002 other series that I've started and not finished, and, doesn't bother me as much as this bothers me. It bugs the hell out of me. So I'm going to read them. I'm going to read them before the end of the year, hopefully. I hope. I'll keep you guys updated, but I really hope I will read them before the end of the year. If there's any series you guys think I should start or read, because I obviously need more, please tell me. I'm looking forward to it. Or if you have finished any of these, tell me what your thoughts are. Are they worth the read or are they not? Please let me know. As always, if you've made it to the end, please go get a cookie. You have earned it. Listening to me ramble equals rewarding yourself with a cookie. I promise. Bye.